Hi, everyone. I wanted to touch base on a couple of things real quick. I'll try to keep it short. The first is cultural appropriation, and the second is the I believe her chants that have followed the Jian Ghomeshi verdict. The cultural appropriation, I think we've all seen recently these different videos where people are being physically assaulted actually for wearing dreadlocks or certain type of clothing. We've also heard of a lot of the criticism around different Halloween costumes. And a few people have made videos recently, and I think the points are actually quite obvious, but I'd like to add my voice to the chorus and just say, first of all, I think it's mean-spirited to automatically use the terminology of cultural appropriation, which has got a bit of a negative connotation to it, rather than what I think most of this stuff really is cultural appreciation. This is a sort of attacking people's intent, basically making it malicious, I think. You'll also note, of course, that no one's too concerned about cultural appropriation when it comes to white Western European culture. Now, I understand there's a reason for this, but these principles, I think, need to be universalized to carry any significance. The argument, of course, for not being too concerned about white Western European culture being appropriated is that white Western Europeans have tended to be the oppressors in history, which is not necessarily true, and so that it's about victim status and privilege and that sort of thing, which is the reason why we don't get too bent out of shape if someone is appropriating white Western European culture. But for the same reason that I think cultural appropriation is a meaningless assault on someone, I don't think you can label people necessarily with this idea of historic oppression and privilege without knowing who they are as an individual. And that is, as I posted in a comment to another video about cultural appropriation, who among us has any claim to ownership over any aspect of our culture? As Barack Obama says, famously, you didn't build that, right? These are the culmination of many different things over a period of decades and centuries, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure how, by an accident of birth, you can lay claim to all those aspects of the culture and demand that other people not mimic them. And really, that's what culture is about anyway. That's all we've done throughout our entire existence, is mimic one another, especially when certain things are seen to be as actually good ideas, they're actually practical. There's a pragmatic reason to appropriate something. And I'm just not sure how any one of us lays claim to ownership over these things simply by accident of birth. What's more troubling to me, though, than any of that, because most of the times these are just pressure put on people, these are just empty criticisms, is that something that you'll notice exists within this realm, as in with other social justice realms, the no platforming and some of these other things, and the blockades and the attempts to stop people from being able to attend, say, a Trump rally, or to stop a Trump rally from happening altogether. And that is this vigilantism that people engage in. They see other people that they think are engaged in some sort of wrong think, and they decide that it's up to them to be judge, jury, and executioner, and take it upon themselves to deny them their freedom of speech, deny them access to something, deny their right to free travel, or to physically assault them, such as is in the case with a recent video that surfaced of the young man wearing dreadlocks and the young, I guess, black woman who physically was trying to stop him from leaving and pulled him back and assaulted him physically. They deem that these things are okay because they're in the right, and they've made that, and they're the sole arbiter of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and everything up to and including physical assault is acceptable if they have deemed that the other person is in the wrong, even if it's just in the wrong conceptually. And that's a dangerous trend. I think, people need to watch out for that. I watched recently Richard Dreyfuss go on to the O'Reilly Factor, and he was talking about how he went to a Trump rally and he was maligned and attacked by all of the other left sort of leaning actors and actresses and people in that area. And his son had actually come to his defense on the internet and said, hey, this is not, we were taught, my parents taught us that you expose yourself to your opponent's point of view. You educate yourself. You don't just follow what everyone says. And I was going to actually make a video, and I was going to entitle it, Richard Dreyfuss is smart, SJWs are dumb. And I was going to preface it by saying, I'm referencing SJWs in the pejorative here to mean those people who would take it upon themselves to attack someone for simply trying to broaden their horizons or to try to stop people from going to a rally and that sort of thing, as opposed to people who are just specifically interested in social justice causes. The point that I was going to make is that Richard Dreyfuss is the smart guy in the room. Why? Because he actually is fairly liberal-minded himself. He had seen all the press about Donald Trump, and he thought, I would like to know for myself. There's no better way than to go to one of his rallies and listen to it come from the man himself. I don't just automatically believe the things that are being said about the man without exposing myself to it. And that was the reason he went. And ironically, he said, actually, all the stuff that I'd heard was borne out to be correct. From the horse's mouth. I confirmed these things by listening to Donald Trump himself, and I left that thinking no differently really than I went in, but at least now I know. This is the smart guy in the room, and he's obviously very mature and responsible that he can go and expose himself to the alternate point of view, glean what he needs to, and then move on. And anyone who tries to stop people and deplatform and that sort of thing, besides the fact that they're denying other people their rights simply because they've determined themselves to be the sole arbiter of what is right and what is wrong, and that this is actionable, that this is acceptable to them to deny other people their rights in the pursuit of silencing the wrong thing. Very dangerous stuff. The Jian Ghomeshi verdict obviously has come down, and I made a much longer video about it. I don't know if I'm going to upload it or not. We will see. However, the one thing that I did want to say about the I believe her chants and protests, there was a topless woman who attacked a press conference. I'm not sure if it was Crown Counsel or who it was that was holding the conference, but she had black ink written all over herself, and I really don't know what people think they're accomplishing by doing these things. And she was chanting, Ghomeshi guilty, Ghomeshi guilty. She might have been a francophone, I'm not sure. And I just would like to know how she knows that. Does she have some intimate knowledge of what actually happened between Jian Ghomeshi and Lucy Ducouture and the other two complainants in the case? And if she does, why is it that she didn't share that with the court during the trial? Why is she only yelling about it? That seems quite irresponsible. Of course, the answer is she has no fucking idea. Neither do you, neither do I, neither does the judge. Nobody except those individuals know exactly what happened. But, of course, through a process of them discrediting themselves on the witness stand, the fact that criminal cases have a high burden of evidence, they were deemed to be not credible enough for a word against word judgment to come down against Ghomeshi. And a lot of people have said this is a failing of the criminal justice system. I actually think it is a shining bright day for the criminal justice system when the burden of evidence is high as it is. The person has the right to face their accusers and the evidence against them. They have the right to due process, etc., etc. The system worked in this case. But the signs and the picketers saying, I believe her, they seem to not understand a critical element of believability when it comes to these kind of things. And that is, and the situation hasn't been good for a while with different false rape allegations that have been proven false after the fact, is there hasn't seemed to be any real ramifications for the false accusers. The people have been shown to make false accusations. And to me, I think this is a critical element in believing people who claim to be victims. Because if there's no ramifications for a false accusation, then it's pretty much open season in getting revenge against someone or just plain out deciding that you're going to make someone's life difficult or destroy someone's life. If there's no negative ramifications if you're actually caught lying about it. This is dangerous, dangerous territory. And I think if you really are going to say you want to believe people when they claim to be victims, you have to have some ramifications for people who lie. Otherwise, the opposite actually occurs. We believe people less. And I think that's what's happening in this case. Aside from the people who are picketing, I think the average person, as this kind of evidence mounts of people making false claims, the people start to believe less and less and less when people make accusations. I'd like to know, as always, what you think. Thanks for watching.